In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to replace your fuel pump. One of the first things you want to do for your fuel pump is to make your way under the hood. You're going to come over to the negative battery terminal. Use a 10mm wrench to loosen the mounting nut. Once you have that loose enough, continue on by removing the terminal end from the battery. Make sure it's making no contact with the battery terminal. Once you have your negative battery terminal disconnected, make your way to the back seat. This is where we're going to be accessing the fuel pump from. Along the front of each of the corners of the seat, you're going to find that you have a locking tab. You can easily release those by reaching underneath the front of the seat and gently lifting up. Once you have one side broken free, do the exact same thing on the other. After you have that broken free, continue on by lifting up the front and sliding it away from the back of the seat. With the back seat out of the way, the next thing we have to do is remove this protective panel. You're going to find that it's glued in place. So carefully find something that you can get in between the panel and the body of the vehicle and gently start prying it up. We'll make our way all the way around so we can remove this protective cover. With the panel lifted up, let's continue on to our electrical wiring harness. To easily remove this, I'll use a small flat screwdriver. I'm going to come along the driver's side of this. You're going to see that you have a rectangular tab. I'll gently get on that and pry. Now that I have that tab squeezed, I'm going to carefully start lifting up on the wiring harness. Now let's use some compressed air and make sure we have no dirt or debris in this area. Once you have that cleaned down, it's going to be time to start disconnecting our lines. We'll start with the larger one. You'll find that it has a red locking tab. It's pretty much shaped like a horseshoe. So what I want to do is find one of the ears. I'm going to use a small pocket screwdriver. I'll start with the top one. I'm going to get along that ear, gently lift it up, and try pressing it towards the passenger side. I want to try to get this to force away. Now that I have that side broken free, I'll continue on to the other side and do the same thing. Once you have them both unlocked, continue on by pulling that tab further away. That should unlock it. At this point, you can leave the tab on there, and we'll continue on by pulling this off of the fuel pump. Now let's give that line a quick inspection. Make sure the seals in there aren't torn, worn, or damaged in any way. Assuming it looks good, go ahead and set that aside. Now let's move along to the smaller line. I'll continue with my small pocket screwdriver and get right behind here. Carefully pry this completely out of the way. Once you have that out of there, continue on by removing the line from the fuel pump. To remove the plastic lock ring for this, it's going to be easiest using a tool that looks like this. It has two ears. On each of the ears, it has a cutout that are supposed to fit over one of these areas. We'll place it over the area so it's as centered as possible. Once you have it on there so it's centered, continue on with your adapter. And for us, we're going to be using a long 1/2-inch drive ratchet. Get this on here, turn it counterclockwise to remove the locking ring. Remove your locking ring, give it a quick inspection. You want to make sure it doesn't look like it's cracked or damaged in any way. You will be reusing this. If it looks like it's damaged, you have to replace it. Now let's put a collection bucket in the area. we're going to start lifting the fuel pump up and out of the gas tank. Keep in mind, it could potentially have fuel in the fuel pump, and you don't want to get it on the interior of your vehicle. There it is, friends. With the fuel pump out of the way, continue on to removing your rubber O-ring. Take a rag and clean the area where that O-ring's supposed to sit. You want to make sure that it's clean and free of any debris. Now we can put on our brand new rubber O-ring. We'll slide that right into place. Make sure it's sitting all the way around the groove perfectly. It's not hanging off outside or even in towards the tank. This is the seal. It's going to keep vapors away from making their way out of the fuel tank. Now we can start installing our brand new fuel pump. As you're installing it, be extremely careful not to damage your level sensor or float. Now as I bring this down, I'm going to put the level in first. Once it goes in, I can continue on by placing this straight down. Looking along the base here, you're going to find that you have a tab that protrudes down. And then if you were to look at the tank, you're going to find that you have a slot for that tab to fit directly into. That's the alignment tab. We'll press this down. Once you have it pressed down, double check that seal. You want to make sure it's not hanging out, like I said before. Assuming it looks good, continue on to your locking ring. While I'm doing this, I'm going to continuously hold pressure down on the fuel pump, holding everything in place. I don't want anything to happen to that gasket. Once I have it snug by hand, I'll continue on with my tool. Once you feel as though it's tight, grab onto that pump. Carefully give it a wiggle. You don't want to break it in any way, but you do want to ensure that it's completely bottomed out against the fuel tank so no fuel or vapor can make their way out. Now let's move ahead and remove this plastic cover. Let's continue on with our plastic locking clip. Have a look at the top of the plastic locking clip. You can tell that I have a raised area. You want to make sure that's facing up. Let's put this into the slot along the front of the fuel pump here. We're only going to push it in just far enough that it's started in place. Continue on with your fuel line. We'll press that down as far as we can. Press in your locking clip. I'm going to give this a little tug just to make sure it's completely secured. That feels good. Now we can move along to our Evap line. We'll slide this into place. Press it on there as far as you can. Lock it down with the red locker. After that, go ahead and give it a little tug. Make sure that's secure as well. Continue on to your electrical connector. Press that down, listen for a click, give it a tug. You want to make sure it's secure so it does not fall off while you're driving down the road. Continue on with your protective cover. Press that down, make sure it's completely secured. Now it's going to be time to start reinstalling our rear seat. If you were to look at the back side of the seat, you're going to find a hook. Now it's important to make sure you have that hook down underneath this area right here on the back seat. If you were to find where the seat belt buckles are for the driver's side rear seat, you're going to find that you have the metal area. Just towards the center of the vehicle, that's where the hook's going to be located at to put this into. Once you have that rear area hooked in, you're going to want to pay attention along the front. You want to make sure that you have your tabs lined up with their corresponding holes. Once you have them lined up, press them in. As I start bringing this into place, I'll also make sure that I have all three of my seatbelt buckles up and in their proper placement. It's It's important to make sure everybody has access to a seatbelt when they're riding in your automobile. Now, before I press the front down, I'm going to continue pressing this in a diagonal manner down towards the rear. I'm trying to get that rear hook lined up. There we are. Once it feels as though it's back as far as it can, continue on to the front and line up your corresponding areas. Once you feel like you have them locked in, just give the rear seat a little wiggle. Make sure it does not lift up easily. Now let's make our way back under the hood. Reconnect that negative battery terminal. Give it a wiggle, make sure it's completely secured. After that, the next thing you want to do is hop in the passenger compartment, start up the car, let it run for a little while. Assuming it functions properly, take it for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.